Good day, my fellow geographers, and welcome back to yet another Geomorphology episode. Once again, I'd like to thank you for tuning in. And if you're new to this channel, I'm Andrew Kumanda and I make videos on the CAPS curriculum. I'd like to welcome you on our channel. I hope this will be simple enough for you. I hope it will be of great benefit. So, if we take a peek at the CAPS document under the Geomorphology section, we can clearly see that so far we have achieved that. So we went through the different types of concepts. That was on the first video. The second video in this playlist is the previous video in which we explained the different types of rivers. And as you might have predicted, we will be going through different types of drainage patterns in this video, right? I also did hear requests that I should finish up the climatology section, which I will. And that made me think that maybe I should be not focusing on one particular geography topic, but maybe multiple of them at once. And hence, in that way, I'll be able to help a lot of people with different requests. So, with that being said, I'd like you guys to write down a comment on this video on any topic under geography that you would like me to explain. So there we go. Comment down below, guys, with your topic requests, okay? On any geography topic, I will note it and I will upload it before the June exams, okay? So let's get on to it then. Drainage patterns are simply the arrangement of streams in a drainage basin, okay? Remember, we said that a drainage basin is the area that is covered by a river system. A river system, we said that it is the main river and its tributaries. Okay, that's what a river system is. And hence, this whole area, we would call that a drainage basin. It's as simple as that. Okay, now streams in different drainage basins are arranged differently. And so, this is what drainage patterns is about. Okay, observing the different arrangements of streams that we have, and there's actually 7 of them. Okay, 7 different arrangements of streams in different drainage basins. Okay, and you have to know the rock type, you have to know the appearance, you have to know the angles at which tributaries join the main stream. And if you master all 7 of them, you master drainage patterns. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the first one. Okay, so the first one is the dendritic pattern. Okay, we call it the dendritic pattern. Now, the dendritic pattern, I usually call it the common pattern, okay, because this is what your teacher would usually draw when they are drawing out a river system, right? Dendritic pattern simply looks like a tree, okay? So if you take a look at this, you can clearly see that this is the main river, okay? The solid, bold line, right? And then these are your tributaries, okay? And the whole river system looks like a tree. Okay, so it looks like a huge tree, and so it's easily identifiable, really. So what makes a dendritic pattern is that tributaries join the main river channel at acute angles, right? So acute angles are simply angles that are less than 90 degrees. Okay, so if you take a look, if we would zoom in here, okay, take a look at the angle that these tributaries join the main river at. Okay, so you look at this angle is less than 90. That is less than 90. That is less than 90. That is less than 90. So on and so on. So I could go all day, guys. But the point is that the tributaries join the main river at acute angles. Okay, so that is the defining characteristic or the unique characteristic, right? And we're saying that it looks like the branches of a tree, or it looks like a tree. This is the easiest drainage pattern to identify on a paper, guys. Dendritic pattern, you cannot miss it out, but you have to know its characteristics, okay? So that when they say a drainage pattern in which tributaries join the main river channel at acute angles, you definitely know that this is a dendritic pattern, okay? They are not always going to show you the diagram As we know, they can describe the characteristics of the drainage pattern. Okay, so that's how you identify it if you are given a description. Or they would say that it looks like the branches of a tree. Okay, then you would know that that is the dendritic pattern. Now, the rock type, a lot of students miss out on the rock type. They don't study what type of rock is usually found under the drainage pattern. And that does not help you at all, guys. You have to know the rock type of each and every drainage pattern we have. That is how you master this concept of drainage patterns, okay? So the rock type of the dendritic pattern are rocks that have equal resistance. They have uniform resistance to erosion, okay? So they should be equal or uniform resistant to erosion. That means that the rock underneath this drainage pattern is a rock that is the same everywhere, okay? If you stand here, you'll find the same rock. If you stand there, you'll find the same rock, so on and so on. So it's the same rock all over the drainage basin, okay? It has the same resistance. That means it will erode at the same rate everywhere, at every little area in this drainage basin. So that is the dendritic pattern. Now, the next patterns, I really need you to make connections, okay, between patterns. That's how you can be able to remember all of them, right? So the next two drainage patterns are patterns that are very similar to each other, such that a lot of people frequently confuse them. And that is the trellis pattern and the rectangular pattern. These two patterns are quite similar, but they are not the same, okay? The minute you can be able to make connections between different types of drainage patterns, that's when you master drainage patterns. Okay, so I need you to realize that these two are similar, but they are different. Okay, in that way, you'll be able to know the difference between them, and that way, you'll be able to identify them and not confuse them. Okay, so let's start with the trellis pattern. The trellis pattern has tributaries that join the main river at right angles. Okay, that's fine. But the defining characteristic of trellis pattern is that the main stream is straight. Okay, the main stream or the main river channel is straight, guys. Okay, it does not have any bends, it does not twist and turn, it moves straight. Okay, so that is the trellis pattern, right? So in this pattern, you'll find out that main streams are parallel to each other. Okay, so this is the main stream, that is one main stream. You could have another main stream next to this one, like that. Okay, another main stream like that. And then you could also have another main stream over there moving like that. Okay, so as you can see, all of these main streams are parallel to each other. And the reason is that trellis patterns usually occur on top of alternating hard and soft rock. Okay, so you might have a hard rock here, and then you have a soft rock right here, and then another hard rock, and then a soft rock. Okay, so these alternating hard, soft, the soft rock usually will allow more erosion, and hence these main river channels will flow along. And then the hard rock will not allow a lot of erosion, and hence you do not have main river channels there. Okay, so that's the type of rock that you would find underneath a trellis pattern. Okay, alternating hard and soft rocks, hard, soft, hard, soft, hard, soft, so on and so on, right? And another type of rock that we find underneath trellis pattern is the folded sedimentary rocks. So if I'm going to draw on this, so it could be something that looks like that. Okay, so folded rocks. Okay, and then on the top of the surface, they make out these ridges. Okay. Right. So this is what you would normally have. So this would make out the hard rock. Okay. And then in between these, you have soft rocks. Okay. Right. So something like that, guys. Okay. So that you hope you get the idea there. So that is the trellis pattern. What I need you to take from this, guys, is the rock type. It has alternating hard and soft rocks, or the rock type could be a folded sedimentary rocks. Okay. And two of the most important characteristics are: one, tributaries join the main river at right angles, and two, the main stream is straight. Okay. The main stream is straight. Now, this characteristic allows you to differentiate the trellis pattern from the rectangular pattern. Okay. So I need you to hold on to that. Okay. Right. So let's head on to this rectangular pattern then. Now, the rectangular pattern does not have a straight main river channel. Okay. It has a river channel that has bends, guys. Look at that. So the main river has these 90-degree bends. It has right angle bends, as you can see over there. Those are 90-degree bends. Right? So the main river channel is not straight as you would see in the trellis pattern. Okay. Now, the reason why a lot of people confuse these two is because, well, tributaries join the main river at right angles here too. Okay. So there you have tributaries. So that's a tributary joining the main river at right angle. That's another tributary over there. This is another tributary over there. This is another tributary over there. Okay. Hope you can see that. So as you can see, these join the main river at right angles, the tributaries. Okay. We also see that in the trellis pattern. Okay. Because its tributaries join the main river at right angles. Those are 90-degree. These tributaries are joining the main river at 90 degrees. Right? So that is what is similar between the rectangular pattern and the trellis pattern. But what differentiates them is that the rectangular pattern has its main river doing 90-degree bends, whereas the trellis pattern has its main river going straight, no 90-degree bends. So be able to differentiate between these two, guys, please. In that way, you'll remember them. In that way, you'll be able to identify them in any exam paper. Okay. Right. The type of rock is igneous rocks with cracks and joints. So you have a particular igneous rock. Okay, let's say that's an igneous rock, and then it has faults. It has maybe a crack there. So it has cracks and joints. Okay, that faults, right? And now you start forming the main river along those joints. When it rains, the joints become wider and wider. There you go. Now you have formed a rectangular pattern. Okay. Right. Okay. Hope you get that. Now let's head on to the two other drainage patterns that look similar. Okay. Hope you did notice the difference between these two, because that will help you remember. I'm telling you. Now, the next two that are very similar are the radial pattern and centripetal pattern. These two are very similar as well. Okay. So that means that if you make a connection between these two, realize that they are similar and realize their differences, it will help you identify them and differentiate between them. Okay. Okay. So let's start off with the radial pattern. Right. So the radial pattern, this is a drainage pattern in which streams flow away from a central point. So they flow away, right? So they are flowing away from each other. And this is because the central point is at high altitude. So it's at a height that is high, right? So if I would draw a cross section of a radial pattern, you'll find out that it is a dome-shaped structure. Okay, it's a dome-shaped structure such that when it rains, these streams flow away from each other. Okay, away from each other from a top point, from a high point in terms of height, right? And so hence they flow away from each other because the center is at the highest altitude. See, this is high altitude. And water will always move from high altitude to lower altitude. Okay. So you'll only find this type of pattern in dome-shaped structures. Structures that look like a dome like that. Right? So that's why the rock type is dome-shaped structures. Okay, so that is your radial pattern. Okay, I hope you get it, guys. I hope you do. Let's move on to the centripetal pattern and try to find a connection. The centripetal pattern, this is a pattern in which streams flow towards the central point. They are not flowing away from the central point like the radial pattern. Okay, so that's what makes them similar. Okay, in the centripetal pattern, these streams move towards a central point, and the central point is at lowest. It's at the lowest altitude, right? So the structure on which they flow is like the bathroom sink that you use. Okay, so it's a basin, right? It's a basin, it's a low point. So these streams flow towards that low point. Okay, so structures like meteorites, for an example, develop the centripetal pattern because now water will flow towards the lowest point, which is at the center. So here the center is the lowest point. So this means that these streams are actually flowing from higher altitudes, moving towards the lower altitude that is at the center or at the central point, right? And hence the rock type is basin-like structures, okay, like meteorites, so on and so on. So I hope you can see the difference between these two. Okay, radial pattern, the streams are flowing away from a central point because the central point is at the highest latitudes, and the areas they are flowing towards are at lower altitudes. Then the centripetal pattern, centripetal to the center. They are moving towards the center, right? So towards the center is where there is the lowest altitude, and hence streams are moving or flowing from relatively higher altitudes towards the center, which is at lower altitude. Okay. Once again, guys, be able to differentiate between these different similar patterns. In that way, you'll be able to remember them easily. Okay. Right. So let's move on. Now let's head on to number 6. Number 6 is the deranged pattern. Okay. So for those of you who do not know what deranged means, well, deranged means crazy or mad, so on and so on. And this helps us identify this pattern because a deranged pattern is an irregular pattern. It's an unclear pattern. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. Okay. So it's deranged. It does not have a particular pattern that is clear. It has an unclear pattern. We don't know what the pattern is. The tributaries do not match up, do not join with the main river channels. So we don't really see what is happening here. Okay, it does not make any sense. Okay, and hence it is deranged. Okay, I'm hoping that you use the definition of deranged to remember this type of pattern. Okay, so tributaries do not join the main streams, and this is usually found in areas that are subjected to glaciation. So glaciation is periods where the earth is covered with ice. Okay, so when they are talking about glaciation period, they're usually referring to those times when whole earth was covered with ice. Okay, so this type of pattern is usually found in areas that were once covered with ice and melted, and hence developed this unclear pattern that we call the deranged pattern, the pattern that does not make any sense, the irregular pattern, the unclear pattern. Okay, I'm pretty sure it's not difficult to remember this one. So now let's head on to the last one. So the last one is the parallel pattern. So parallel pattern, you have the main river and its tributaries flowing in the same direction. So if you can observe well, you'll find out that this is a tributary, this is the main river, okay, and it looks like they are moving in the same direction, okay, they are parallel to each other. That's what we mean by flowing in the same direction. They are parallel to each other, right? So this will usually develop in steep slopes. Okay, when a slope is steep, all streams are forced to flow in one direction. Okay, they all are flowing in this direction, and hence they end up being parallel to each other. Okay, so this is the parallel pattern. Okay, the rock type is steep slopes. Right. So can you imagine, guys, if you can make these connections, trellis pattern and the rectangular pattern together, the radial pattern and the centripetal pattern. Now, once you are able to make these connections and able to differentiate between all the different types of patterns, then you'll get all the marks on drainage patterns in the exam. I'm telling you. Okay. Okay, so I hope that was as simple as it can get, guys. Okay, that's what we try to do to ensure that we make it simple enough for you. So this is what I have for today's episode. The next episode will be focusing on the drainage density, okay? I'm thinking we should maybe finish up drainage systems in South Africa, right? So we'll finish all these up together, bundle them up in one video for the sake of the students who are rewriting in the month June, okay? Now, this has been wonderful, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Please share, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and please tell others and others and others so that we create this one environment, this one effective learning environment that will help out millions and millions of students, okay? Now, thank you for tuning in, and I hope to see you next time.